Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the class. In the previous class, we were discussing about the Mahajan Petha, and we have seen that there were so many changes uh, happened in the Mahajan Petha. The most important thing about the Mahajan Petha were the fortification. Huge forts were built, and the second thing was the army started to be regular, and all these changes were the reason for increased expenditure of the Mahajan Petha. And in order to meet these expenditure, there was need of income sources, and in this way, the system of regular taxation started during this period. And we have seen that how different group of people were different group of people gave tax to the king. Like farmers, whatever was produced by the farmers, one sixth of that production was given to the king as a tax. Then craft persons, they paid taxes in the form of labor. And then herders were also there who paid taxes in the form of animals and animal produce. And traders also paid taxes, whatever goods they used to buy and sell. On those goods, they have to pay taxes. And then hunters and gatherers also gave forest produce to Raja as a tax. And now, apart from these changes, what we see that during this time in Mahajanpadas, there were changes occurred in the field of agriculture also. And in this regard, two major changes were very important. The first was the growing use of iron plowshares. During this time, at this time, people started using iron plowshare, and with the help of this, what happened that the soil could be turned over better than with a wooden plowshare. So this was the advantage of the use of iron plowshare, that the soil could be turned over better, and in this way, soil become more useful. The productivity of the soil increased. So this use of iron plowshare increased the productivity of agriculture. Then the second change, uh, this must be underlined, the growing use of iron plowshare. And the second is was people started transplanting paddy. During this period, this transplantation of paddy, the practice of transplantation of paddy was started. So, what is this transplanting of paddy? It means what happened earlier, that the farmers used to scatter seed on the ground, and after scattering the seed on the ground, the plant sprouted from these seed, and then saplings were grown. So now what happened that when the saplings were grown, uh, they were removed from that place, and now they planted in the field. This is called a transplantation of paddy. So first they scatter it in the field, let it sprout, let them sprout, and then saplings were grown. Then they remove that small sapling and then planted it in the field. And this transplantation also led to increased production, because of transplantation, the survival rates of plant increased. If transplantation was not done, then in that case, many plants used to die, because in transplantation what happens when the farmers are transplanting the saplings, then they will take care of the distance. There must be some distance between the two saplings. So this distance is maintained, so there will be more survival rate of the plants. So in this way, we see that this also caused increased production. And but this work was very backbreaking work, we can say. It required hard labor, because in order to transplant the paddy, the laborers used to do work for long hours while bending their back. So it was a very uh, uh, job, a very labor intensive job, and it caused a lot of trouble for the people. And the slave men and women, that was dasas and dasis, and landless agricultural laborers who were called kammakars. All these people had to do this work of transplantation. So the condition of the people whose condition in society was not good, like dasas, dasis, and kammakars, were used for this transplantation of paddy. So all these two changes caused increased agricultural production. And now we will see the case of Magadha. A closer look towards Magadha. You have seen Magad on map 4. We will again see the location of Magad. Magad is present day Bihar. You can see it here. This is Magad. Okay. This is present day Bihar. So Magadha became the most important Mahajanpada in about 200 years. Okay, it became the most important Mahajanpada. And what was the reason for its becoming the most important Mahajanpada? There were many reasons, and we are discussing those reasons only. The first reason was many rivers such as Ganga and Son flowed through Magad. So the rivers were very important at that time, because rivers were very much important for the purpose of transport. Then they were also important for water supplies, and they were also important for making the land fertile. So Magad has the advantage of rivers like Ganga and Son, which were very much important for transport, water supply, and making the land fertile. And then the second point, what we see, which make the which made the Mahajanpada of Magadha the most important, was a part of Magad was forested, and in this forested part, what we find, elephants, and these elephants were captured and trained for the army. At that time, elephants were an important part of the army. So, because forest was there, and in forest, elephants were there, and these elephants were captured and trained for the army. Not only this, forest also provided wood for building houses, carts, and chariot. So the utility of forest was elephant. The second utility of forest was wood. And besides, we find that there were iron ore mines in the region that could be tapped to make strong tools and weapons. So, in this region, this Magadha region, In this region, we find that there were iron ore mines also, and these iron ore mines were used for extracting iron, and these iron were used for making strong tools and weapons. So these are the three reasons we can say. The first is uh, rivers like Ganga and so on. The second is forest, which provided elephant and also wood. And the third reason is iron ore mines. So these are the three reasons were which became the cause for the importance of Magadha. Now we will see that there were many important rulers of Magadha, but there are two rulers which need to be discussed. The one is Bimbisar and the second is Ajatsattu. This Bimbisar and Ajatsattu, they used all possible means to conquer other Janpadas, and by conquering other Janpadas, what they did, they expanded the territory of Magad. They they made Magad more powerful, stronger, and its area was expanding. And other than Bimbisar and Ajatsattu, Mahapadmananda was another important ruler. Mahapadmananda. These all are rulers of Magad. And this Mahapadmananda, he also extended the territory of Magad. He controlled up to the northwest part of the subcontinent. Now the area of Magad included northwestern part of the subcontinent under the leadership of Mahapadmananda. And the capital of Magad was Rajgriha, which is presently we call it Rajgir. This is Rajgriha, which is in Bihar at present, and this Rajgriha was the capital of Magad for many years. After some time, this capital was shifted from Rajgriha to Patliputra. This Patliputra is present day Patna. Okay, so we have learned what we have known about the Magad, that it was one of the most important Mahajanpada. It became the most important Mahajanpada. There were three reasons: river, forest, and iron ore mines. Then we have discussed some of the important rulers like Bimbisar, Ajatsattu, Mahapadmananda, and its capital was Rajgir for several years. But after that, Patliputra became its capital. Now, we will discuss a ruler named Alexander, who was not the ruler of Magad, but he was the king of Macedonia in Europe. Okay, and we are talking about now the period is 2300 years ago. It means it is around 300 BC. We are talking about the time which is 300 BC, around. It's not exact time. Okay, it's around 300 BC की बात हम लोग कर रहे हैं. And there was a ruler, Alexander, who was the king of Macedonia, and this Macedonia was in Europe. So 300 BC. Okay. Now this Alexander, he did not want to be the king of Macedonia only, but he wanted to become a world conqueror. वो पूरी दुनिया को जीतना चाहता था. ठीक है, he wanted to become a world conqueror. But of course, he was not able to conquer the whole world, but he conquered many parts of Egypt and West Asia. And after conquering Egypt and West Asia, he came to the Indian subcontinent. Okay. And when he reached the bank of Beas, by reaching there, now he wanted to go further. He wanted to uh, conquer the territories which were lying on the eastern side of the river. Yes. But what happened that his soldiers refused. Now, the soldiers of Alexander refused to march further eastward. And why they refused to march further? Because now uh, mm, they did not want to uh, start any new battle because they were very scared, because they have heard about the rulers of India, and they knew that rulers of India had vast armies of foot soldiers, chariots, and elephants. So this is about Alexander. And from India, the he started to move back. Okay. Now we will see about Vajji. While Magadha became a powerful kingdom, Vajji, with its capital at Vaishali, was under a different form of government known as Gana or Sangha. So we have a closer look of two Mahajanpadas, that is Magad and Vajji. So we have discussed about Magad, and now we are discussing about Gana. We are discussing about Vajji. Vajji, the capital of Vajji was at Vaisali, and this Vaisali was also in Bihar. And in this Vajji, we find that there was a different form of government, and this form of government was known as Gana or Sangha. What we find that in Gana or Sangha, there were not one ruler, but many rulers. In Magadha, what we find that there was only one king. In most of the Mahajanpadas and Janpadas, the rule of the king was there. Only one king used to be there. But in Vajji, we find that there was different form of government which was known as Gana. And in this Gana or Sangha, we find that there was not a single ruler, but many rulers. And sometimes what happened that thousands of men ruled together. Each one was known as a Raja. So it was not ruled by a single Raja, but many Rajas were there, and these Rajas performed rituals together. Okay, all these Rajas, who were so many in number, they performed rituals together. They also met in assemblies. These Rajas used to meet in assemblies, and they decided what had to be done and how, through discussion and debate. So it is similar, very much similar to the present day democratic form of government, which we have discussed in our civics book. Democracy is a form of government in which people rule directly, not directly. People in which people rule. People rule through their representatives. They take part in the elections. We all have studied all these things. Now here what we are seeing that in Vajji, uh, there were many rulers, and these rulers were thousands in number. They used to meet in assemblies like parliament. At present, we have parliament. In this parliament, the representatives of people meet meet together, they decide what had to be done, and they debate on important issues, they discuss on important issues. So in the similar way, these rajas used to meet in assemblies and decided important they have taken important decisions, and discussion and debate was taken place on important issues. So this was very much similar to the present day democratic government. And you can see that if they were attacked by an enemy, they met to discuss what should be done to meet the threat. So what we are seeing that the king is not there to take the decision unilaterally. The king is not taking decision on his own. When there is a rule of a king, then what happens? The king takes the decision with consulting his ministers. But here, what we seeing that any decision is taken by all the rajas by debate and discussion. But in this, we also find that women, dasas, and kammakars could not participate in these assemblies. They were not allowed to participate in these assemblies. So we see that inequality was. So this is the way how Gana and Sangha were composed, and how they functioned. Now, in the next chapter, we will again read about these ganas or sanghas when we will have a discussion on Buddha and Mahavira. And we see it is written here what is Gana and what is Sangha. Gana is used for a group that has many members, and Sangha means organization or association. Now we see that mm, the in Buddhist book we find description of life in the sanghas are given, and in this regard we will see this account of the Vajji from the Digha Nikaya, which was a famous Buddhist book. In this book, Digha Nikaya, in this book, the account of the Vajji is given, and it contains some of the speeches of the Buddha. And the time of writing this Buddhist book was 2300 years ago. Now, Ajat and Vajjis. Ajat wanted to attack the Vajjis. We have discussed about Ajat also. He was one of the great leaders of Magad Mahajan Petha. And now he wanted to expand the territory of Magad. So he wanted to attack Vajji, and in order to get the advice of Gautam Buddha on this matter, he sent his minister, and the name of the minister was Vassakara, to Buddha. So when Vassakara went there, the Buddha asked him whether the Vajjis met frequently in full assemblies. He found the answer in positive. Yes, the Vassakara answered that yes, Vajjis meet frequently in full assemblies. When he heard that they did, he replied that the Vajjis would continue to prosper as long as they held full and frequent public assemblies. So these are the actually Gautam Buddha is saying what is the essence of the statement of Gautam Buddha is that as Vajji, the people of Vajji are following such practices that it will be very difficult to defeat them. They will continue to prosper. जब तक वो तब तक प्रॉस्पर करेंगे जब तक वो दीज फॉलोइंग प्रैक्टिसेस को जब तक वो अडॉप्ट करेंगे तब तक वो प्रॉस्पर करते रहेंगे एंड इन दैट सिचुएशन नो वन कैन डिफीट देम. So, Buddha is saying that Vajjis would continue to prosper as long as they held full and frequent public assemblies. We have discussed about these public assemblies. In these assemblies, people used to debate and discuss on important matters, and all the important decisions were taken in the assemblies only. So, if they are having full and frequent public assemblies, then they will prosper. If they met and acted together, yes, the practice of work was not that the king is there was not a single king, thousands of kings were there, and they took the decision with debate and discussion. So they met and acted together. They followed established rule. There was no one who was there to break the rule, but all of them were working according to the rules. They respected, supported, and listened to elders. Whatever was the view of the elders, that was respected, supported, and listened by the people who met in assemblies. And Vajji women were not held by force or captured. There was no use of violence against Vajji women. Chaityas, which were called local shrines, were maintained in both towns and villages. Local shrines were maintained in towns and villages. And wise saints who followed different beliefs were respected and allowed to enter and leave the country freely. So, saints were respected and they were allowed to enter or leave the country. So these are the features of Vajji. These are the positive things about Vajji, and because Vajji was following all these practices, so it will prosper. It will be difficult to defeat Vajji. So this was the advice given by Gautam Buddha to the minister of Ajatsattu. Now we see that Rajas of powerful kingdom tried to conquer the Sanghas. There were many Rajas other than Ajatsattu. There were many Rajas who tried to conquer the Sanghas, but they were not able to conquer them. And these Sanghas were there for a very long time. And we find that about 1500 years ago, these Sanghas were there. And the last of the Gana or Sanghas was conquered by the Gupta rulers. And about this, you will read in chapter 11. So, these Ganas and Sanghas were existed for a long time. Why? Because they have the above mentioned practices. They were following the above mentioned practices, which was said by Buddha. Now we will see what was happening elsewhere. As we are concerned with the happenings of the subcontinent of India, but we must be aware of the developments during this period in other parts of the world. So elsewhere is also important. Now we will discuss about Greece and Athens. Okay, you can see Greece and Athens. These are the countries which are lying on the border of Europe and Asia. And we find that around 2500 years ago, the people of Athens set up a form of government which was called a democracy. The form of government about which you have read in your civics book, it's a rule of the people, for the people and by the people. है ना? So this democracy was first started in Athens or Greece around 2500 years ago, and it lasted for about 200 years. It was there for 200 years. And what were the features? It is very much similar what we saw in Vajji, the Gana or Sangha, which was existing in Vajji, and the democracy which was there in Athens. Both are similar to each other. In Athens, we find that all free men over the age of 30 were recognized as full citizen. So here you must understand, it's talking about free men. It means there were slaves also. So all free men over the age of 30 were recognized as full citizens. There was an assembly that met at least 40 times a year to decide on important matters. So assembly was also there, and it used to meet in order to decide important matters, and all citizens could attend these meetings. Then what we see, appointments for many positions were made through lottery. Lottery system was there. It means that decision of one person was not working. Uh, Appointments was done by the system of lottery. All those who wanted to be chosen gave in their names, and then some were selected through lottery. Lottery is the functioning of lottery is like this only. Then we see citizens were expected to serve in the army and navy. All the citizens were expected that they should serve in army and navy. Women were not considered citizens. Here also we see the condition was same, because in Vajji also we see that women were not allowed to take part in assemblies, and in the similar way we see that women were not considered citizens in Athens. And many foreigners who lived and worked in Athens as merchants and craft persons did not have rights as citizens. Foreigners were not also given rights, as some rights were given to the citizens, but foreigners were not given these rights. Besides, there were several thousand slaves in Athens. We have seen this in Vajji also. Slaves were not allowed to take part in the assemblies, and the similar way there were several thousand slaves in Athens who worked in mines, fields, household, workshop. They too were not treated as citizens. So who were not citizens? Women, foreigners and slaves. So this was also not a true democracy, because it was not based on the principle of equality. Though decision was not taken by a single person, there used to be assemblies where citizens meet regularly and take important decisions. Still, equality was not there, so it was not a true democracy. So now this chapter has been completed, and now we will start a new chapter in civics tomorrow.